Tracey L. Welcome to A Reentry Point of View. I'm here with a legendary guest today, a guy I've been trying to get on my show for a while now. I'm here with Milton Street. How you doing, man?
Pleasure.
Thanks for coming. You running for 181st district state
Yes,
rep?
second time around.
Second time
Yeah, I
around?
represented that district once before.
Okay, all right. Well, here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to give you to my audience. Tell my audience what you're running for and why.
Well, I want to tell them why I'm running, number one. But before you really can understand it, I want to show you the configuration of the chambers in Harrisburg. Up top here we have the Senate, which is 50 members. You'll notice that the blue side is the minority. The red side is the majority. Down at the bottom is the House of Representatives, which has 203 members. The blue side is the minority. The red side is the majority. What's very important to understand before you vote is the minority will have its say. The majority will have its way. The majority controls everything. And one of the problems we have in Philadelphia is all of our elected officials, especially in the black community, sit in the minority. So we wonder why we can't get anything accomplished. We have a projected $700 million deficit in our schools by year 2020. And we are continue to elect people to sit in the minority. Again, the minority will have its say. The majority will have its way. So until we get some representatives, and I'm going to show you something in a minute, to sit in the majority, then our chances of funding our schools, stopping the violence in our community, getting more money for our reentry community is limited because we don't have any political power. You'll go to the polls and you'll vote for somebody to sit in the minority. Now let me ask you a question. How many of you out there would buy a brand new car, sit it in front of your house, knowing it doesn't have a transmission and can't take you anywhere? Doesn't make any sense. Why would you elect people without the knowledge of knowing whether they're going to sit in the majority or the minority? Look for me 1 minute right here. We have, and I want you to pay attention to this. This is our Black Caucus. All of these members here are members of the Black Caucus, and we constantly ask, what is our legislative Black Caucus doing? Notice they're all over here on the blue side. They're in the minority. They're in the minority. We don't have one elected official that represents the black community in Philadelphia that sits over here in the majority. You have 120 majority members over here, and you have 80 minority members. It takes 102 votes to pass legislation. They cannot help you. But every one of these people will be out banging the streets asking you to elect somebody to sit over here in the minority. It will take, we have 102 votes to pass legislation out of here. There's 120 members on the majority side. So in order in this election for the minority to flip the control of this chamber, they have to get 21 votes to change from the minority to the majority. That's not going to happen. Or from the majority to the minority. It's not going to happen. In the Pennsylvania Senate, which I just told you, we have 34 members in the majority and 16 members in the minority. We need 11 seats or 10 seats to be flipped from the majority to the minority side in order for the minority to have control. It's not going to happen. So what that means is, and we've done our research, that this year, in November, you're going to have a chance to do one of two things. Vote for legislative weakness, where people will sit over here and have their say, while the people over here will have their way. Okay? Now I'm going to tell you that we have the most important issue that we have confronting us in this election is the projected $700 million deficit that's going to confront us in year 2022. Now, as minority people, usually we are crisis reactionary. So we can't sit back and wait until 2022 to try to take issue with the deficit. Let me show you, okay? Down at the bottom here, you'll see, okay, for 2000, all the numbers are right here. In 2018, right now, we're gonna have a surplus. And you'll notice how the deficit grows and grows and grows. When we get down here to 2022, we have $700 million deficit for our Philadelphia school district. And the problem is, again, all of these people here can't do anything about it. They're in the minority. They can't introduce legislation that would allow us to raise money without the consent of the majority. If you had somebody over here in the majority, okay, if you had somebody in the majority, then you would be able to have a chance to introduce legislation that you can get all of your people to support that would help us offset the deficit in our school system, okay? Now this is not new. That's why I got this chart here. This same situation with the funding of our schools happened back in 1982 and 83. In 1983, I was a member of the Pennsylvania Senate. I never ever sat in the minority in my life. I refused to go to Harrisburg and be in the minority, coming from the minority, and go up there and sit in the minority so that I could have my say while the other people would have their way. You can't represent your community adequately unless you have at least somebody over here in the majority that you can form a coalition with and you can talk backwards and forwards. It doesn't make sense for the Philadelphia black community to have all of its elected officials sitting in a legislative position of weakness. It's legislative weakness, okay? The majority can defeat the minority's legislation at will, okay? So this election, we have to make sure, Philadelphians, that we have some people over here in the majority so they can have their way while the minority is having its say. When I was in the Pennsylvania Senate, I was the chairman of the committee that all the legislation that was introduced that affected Philadelphia came in my committee. So when Dr. Constance Clayton would come to Philadelphia, she was the head of the school board at that time, or the school district, the minority would say, you got to go see Senator Street. Every dime that came to Philadelphia came through my committee. And I'm going to explain to you that when I say the majority controls everything, it controls the committees. So when you introduce a piece of legislation, it goes to committee. If it affects the schools, it will go to Education Committee. If it affects the highways, it goes to the State Government Committee. So they have all these committees, and the senator or the House member, that's the majority chairperson, has complete and total control of that piece of legislation. If that senator or House member doesn't release that legislation from his committee, then it dies in committee. So in 1983, I introduced, and we had the same situation in our schools. I want you to look at this. In June, I introduced what is called video bingo. We were going to put these video bingo machines in the airport, in hotel lobbies, in barbershops, in beauty shops, grocery stores. It was 5,000 of them. Went to Bowers and had them made. Took them to city council, and Council President Joe Coleman and all the members, they played the thing, they had a good time with it, and a unanimous resolution that this is something that could fund our schools. Every dime after expenses that we used on this video bingo was dedicated to our schools. Operation of our schools. At that time, on the high end, our projections were $350 million a year. On the low end, it was $100 million a year. So I am going to reintroduce this video bingo, okay? I'm going to try to get it reintroduced prior to the election in November so that we can have hope, some idea that we're going to be able to fund these schools without having to raise our real estate taxes. If I were to ask all the homeowners and the business owners and everybody out there, how many of you want your real estate taxes raised? I'm sure everybody would stand up and holler, I want my real estate taxes raised, okay? That's a joke. But we don't have to raise real estate taxes to fund our schools. We don't have to have a beverage tax to fund our schools. This proposal, if passed, would allow us to eliminate the beverage tax, would allow us to have enough money to have quality computer science programs so we can develop our young people so they may be able to go to Silicon Valley and participate in some of these new developments that's coming out. You have to remember when you're talking the minority votes the majority, understand the definition of political power. Political power is the ability to achieve purpose, the strength required to bring about social, political, or economic change. But you have to identify your purpose. If your purpose is to just vote a label, and you have no purpose that's going to affect change in the community, then you have to ask yourself, why do I vote? The purpose for me running again, coming out of retirement, is to identify 2 or 3 major issues that is imperative that we address before my feet get cold and my eyes go shut and my body is chilled by the hands of death. Got to get this done, okay? So what happens is this. I am asking people to vote legislative strength or legislative weakness. If you're in the minority, you're voting legislative weakness. I just read an article where the NAACP had a real good cause, and the article said that we over 6 of these people that I showed you who offered amendments to the legislation, and all of them were voted down. Look on the internet, you'll see it. They were all voted down. They were voted down because the decisions on legislation is not made on the floor of the let me just show you something. The decision on legislation is not made here when they get on the floor. It's made in the caucus room. All these members go into a caucus room and they decide what legislation one is going to be voted on the agenda for that particular day. And they decide behind closed doors in the caucus that we're voting down all amendments. But what we will not do is deny the minority from having its say. So if they want to talk for an hour, 2 hours, we're just going to relax and let them talk. And after they've had their say, we're going to have our way. We're going to vote down all amendments. This is behind closed doors. We're going to vote down all amendments, and it's all agreed to. So they never call up a piece of legislation to be voted on the floor of the House of Representatives without knowing they had the votes to defeat it or pass it. They know that before they go on the floor. So when you call your representative up, one of these people over here on this side who are powerless, the legislative weakness, and say, I want you to offer an amendment. I want you to offer this amendment. I want you to offer this amendment. I want you to offer this amendment. And all of them say, yeah, I'm going to offer this amendment. We're going to go on the floor and we're going to fight this thing, right? That's what they tell you. And you feel good. Man, I went to my state representative and he fought. He fought, man. But he lost. Because the decision was made, people. It was made prior to your powerless representative going on the floor of the House of Representatives or the Senate to offer the amendments on your behalf. But you must remember that you, the community, voted to send these people to Harrisburg and sit in the minority. So get this information prior to voting, and don't say, are you agnostic party, are you the Green Party, are you the Democratic Party, are you the Revolutionary Party, are you the Republican Party? It doesn't matter what party you are if you have defined your purpose and that party is in the majority and it has the ability to help you realize your purpose and make it a reality. That's politics. That's politics, okay? So, I want you to pay very close attention, because between now and November the 3rd, November the 6th, in this election, there's going to be a lot of activity dealing with the majority and the minority, because we have been programmed for 60 years to vote a label. So in November, people say to me, Street, is something wrong with you? Right, you can't beat the big lever. Well, the big lever can't help you solve the educational deficit. It can't help you solve the violence. It can't help you create economic development. It can't help you with your reentry student, the people coming in who need jobs. The big lever can't help you with that, because all these people here are on the big lever. When you want to send them back to have their say, it's your choice. But I am giving you the information to be able to make an intelligent choice. An intelligent choice. A lot of these people are very, very intelligent. I want you to listen to me very good. These people are very, very intelligent. But here's the problem. Are they politically intelligent? Everybody can't be a doctor. Everybody can't be an airline pilot. Everybody can't be an astronaut. And everybody don't have the political intelligence to be an effective elected official. Let me define it for you. Political intelligence is the ability to achieve purpose, the strength required to bring about social, political, economic change. But it is in people. Superior political intelligence is the act of knowing, understanding, comprehension, knowledge. The mental faculty that brings about thinking. Okay? I gotta cut this off short here. Okay? It's the act of knowing, understanding. Okay? If we don't think before we vote, okay, then we get what we get. You have to think before you vote. You really do. Okay? And we want to talk about the violence. We have a plan to, I have my violence coordinator here, Terry. I want you to give me a hand here with the violence. We have 26 young people in the ages of the teenagers who have been shot dead this year. 26. Now we have a plan. We have a plan to defeat this whole thing. So what happens is this: we have people in the community who respond to this. I'm so thankful for having the opportunity, this gentleman right here giving us the opportunity to get this information out there. And I'm asking Terry to come up here because he had a relative, Terry, just stand up there, who was shot dead recently. A member of his family, and he's been going a lot. Let's talk about that for a minute, and these 26 young people that's been shot dead. And he's out on the street, he's working with this. That's
Yeah, on Monday, my cousin was murdered on 4th and Collar Hill. He was shot twice in the back of his head. And, you know, the city don't have no action plan for the violence in the city of Philadelphia. And every day we witnessing murders after murders after murders. Organizations can't get along. There's just so much strenuous activity that's going on while we fighting this battle in the middle of the street. We going through neighborhoods after neighborhoods, dealing with the youth, dealing with their parents. It's no action plan for the violence that's going on in the city. So this election has to be on the merits of the violence, because in order to get the right candidate in office, he has to know what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And If you look up and down the streets of Philadelphia right now, you'll see funerals going in different directions because bodies are dropping, and it's nothing being said about it. Nothing. I mean, we have governors, we have elected officials. Nobody's saying nothing about the violence. So our job in the 181 is to first attack on a day-to-day basis in the street, on the ground level. But all through the city, we need this same ground level campaign, and we willing to train each neighborhood, to deal with this violence on a day-to-day basis. So in Philadelphia right now, we probably at 75 murders, and they're not really telling you that the crime rate is up. And while the neighbors are in fear in their houses, the kids are running through the streets. I'm talking about all through the city, and they shooting up everything, and it's like it's yard out because there's no action plan. And once you shoot and they see no results in the community starts to be in fear. So I would like for us to challenge all candidates, Democrat, Republican, Greenlee. Let's battle in the street. Let's see who's going to really go out there and really hit these merits.
Thank you, Terry. I want to take a minute to define. He really did a good job in defining the problem. Let me say, here's the solution. We have what is called the Street Smart Community Patrol. We're going to use reentry. We're going to use all the nonviolent people. See, we have so many nonviolent brothers and sisters that's been put in prison, a lot of them unfairly, okay? So we want to offer them opportunity not to go into some long-range training program without an income. So we have put together a community patrol where the people who live in the community will patrol the community they live in. Now, if we can hire people to protect millions and millions of dollars of Walmart's inventory and Penny's inventory and as security guards, and let me tell you, they're dedicated to their job. You steal a $5 quart candy bar or something out of Walmart's and go out, a dude's going to grab you saying, man, look, man, it ain't going to cost me my job, man. It ain't going to cost me my job. Which is a passionate thing for a person. Young people want to work. They want to work, Tracy. They don't want to not work. So while Tracy got his training programs going on, we want to give people jobs that don't require any training with a commitment that they'll go to training for upward mobility so they don't have to walk around in the community while they're training with missed meal cramps. A man has got to be able, and a woman, to take care of their family. A man that can't take care of his family can't feel very manly. Okay? So we will pay $45,000 a year to put a person in prison, but we won't give him a job for $15,000, $20,000 to help aid and keep him out while he's going through his whole training program.
Why is that? Why is that?
It's because the correctional system is a business, okay? And they use slave labor on a lot of these brothers, and they put them in training programs. And I have a stack of training certificates that some of the brothers and sisters coming from prison have got, but they can't get a job when they get out. Okay, so they call and they say, "Will you help me get a job?" I refer them to Tracy. Okay, so I don't try to have influence where I don't. I can't lift 1 million pounds. So if you got somebody that can, you say, go over there, he can lift it, right? So what happens is we're forming that coalition. Okay, we're going to put this thing together so that we have people who have jobs while they're going through the training programs for upward mobility. We have good electricians to come out. I have some information from guys who went through prison. They're good electricians, man. Carpenters, they're good. They have everything they need. And they've been model citizens. Never got a write-up in prison. Never got a write-up. And they come out and they can't get a job. I don't have time to go through this whole program now, and I want to tell you it's spiritually based, okay? So, and I would encourage everybody that, next time I do this, you have read Nehemiah, okay? You read your Bible, and you'll find out the things that were written in the past were written to teach us that through encouragement and the endurance of the scriptures we can have hope. Okay, so
how can we get in touch with you, and also let the audience know how they want to financially help you, support you in your race? You give them your information, your email address or whatever.
Okay, if you want to, I'm going to give you email address. Okay, it's Thomas Street, STREETT @gmail.com. Let me spell it again. THOMASSTREETT @gmail.com. You can send that information to me. Somebody will get back in touch with you, okay? And listen, the minority will have its say. The majority will have its way. It's time we send some people to Harrisburg to sit in the majority. Thank you.
And there you have it. I'm Tracey L. Fisher, and this has been a Reentry Point of View, an educational one. Thank you. Hi, I'm Tracey L. Fisher, the face of Reentry. I'm going to do this short little video on returning citizen, the mind frame of an individual that come home from being incarcerated. People always ask me about how can I help someone when they come home? What does it take to help someone when they come home? Well, first of all, you have to understand the mind frame of the individual, he or she, when they come home. And most of the individuals that come home, not all, but most of them, majority of them, they come home broken. They come home weak, especially the males. They spend their whole time in jail working out, doing exercise, sitting around, reading frivolous books, watching frivolous TV, having frivolous conversation, right? But they don't work their brain mentally. So when they come home, physically they're strong, but mentally they're weak. And when they come into society, they don't know what to expect. They're afraid, and nobody knows how to deal with them because they're not telling you they're afraid once they enter back into society. But the reality of it is, everyone needs to see a psychiatrist. Not that you're crazy, but you need to see a psychiatrist to help you get your thoughts straight so you can understand what's going on out here in society. Because the only thing you know is an incarcerated environment. There's two yous when you come home. There's the incarcerated you, and there's the society you. Once you're in the society, obstacles come your way. Situations occur. And the only thing you know how to do is handle it with a incarcerated mind frame. And when you handle it with a incarcerated mind frame, that's why the recidivism rate is so high. That's why you go back to jail, because you didn't know how to function out here in society, because you was never taught how to be responsible when you was incarcerated. That's because when you was in society, you wasn't responsible. That's why you went to jail. So the rehabilitation part of jail is non-existent. It don't exist. You have to rehabilitate yourself. If you're looking for the government to rehabilitate you so you can come home and be productive in society, you done really lost your mind. Because there's no way in the world that the government is going to allow you to come home and be productive in society and stop their money flow. They make money off of you once you go to jail. Everybody gets paid when you go to jail. When you go to jail, you create over 100 jobs. The cops lock you up. The judge, the DA, the prosecutor, the public defender, the sheriff, the county judge, the COs, the wardens, everyone. Everybody makes money off you but you. But you. Now, when I was incarcerated years ago, they was making $32,000 a year. They made over $700,000 plus off of me just for them 22 years. Now they receiving $42,000 a year. It done went up $10,000. So if the government is making $1 trillion off of this business here, but they only putting in $100 million to actually so-called help it from actually occurring again, that's not going to happen.